Hello, this is YLAM, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Lumenier RaceBlades. These are the frames that are designed specifically for racing. I have the 5-inch version and the 6-inch version. We did not get the 4-inch version because it was just, it didn't look like it was a very good value, in my opinion, for over $100 frame. You can get comparable for way less, so we only decided to get the 5 and the 6. So we'll go ahead and open them up and take a look. So I'll go ahead and start with the 5-inch and then we'll go to the 6-inch. If it looks correctly on the website, most likely they're going to be the exact same components. It's just that we're going to have different size arms for the proper frame size. So when you open it up, what you see in here, one packet, two packets, some screws. Here are the arms, and we'll look at all of it once I get it all out. And then that's everything. So this right here is the base plate what was this one? This one's the 5-inch frame. I believe the 5 and 6-inch base plates are the same, unlike the Aliens where the base plates are actually different. So that's the base plate. Moving on over here, this is the top plate for the RaceBlade. It looks like it's the same one as the 210. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is. And then the same camera holders as the Lumenier 210. Here are the 4 arms that we have. These are the 5-inch arms. They look to be 4mm thick, so nice thick arms. We have a bag for all of the screws. Yeah, these black ones are actually aluminum screws, and these smaller ones must be for the steel screws. Here are the spacers. The spacers are actually, if you can just look through right now, they actually have a texture to them, so that when you're using these spacers and you're putting them in between the top plate and the bottom plate, you can actually grit them. That's really nice. And then there are the, I guess the materials for keeping the arms on. These specific type of, I guess, locking nuts that are designed to actually go onto the base plate and then lock into the arm. So we'll get that done here shortly. Open up this one. So we have some neoprene padding, which most of the Lumenier frames come with. So this is to help pad things out, especially if you're using like an HD camera. That's what you would use this padding for. These specific ones are for the landing legs. They no longer use spacers for landing legs. They now come with these neoprene padding, and these are actually denser than the neoprene for the HD camera, which is nice. Really, when I look at these, you have 4 of them. What you could probably do with these is that you can probably cut these in half, save some weight, and actually have enough for either 2 of them, or you can space it out to cover more of the arm. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I really like these little things right there. You have the power distribution board. These are really good. We've been using a lot of these, and they've been holding up really well. Some zip ties. Stickers. Always have stickers. Here's the grommet to hold on to the XT60 cable. Just go ahead and put it in there and make sure we don't lose the grommet. We got the strap for the battery. These look like they're more for the to actually hold down the power distribution board and also the flight controller. So these two go together. All right, so we have more zip ties, and it looks like they provided, like if you were to use the aluminum spacers for landing, for the landing legs, these are what you would put onto the spacers to give them a rubber bottom. They actually provided these, but I don't think they actually provided the spacers to use in place of the neoprene landing legs. So I guess that's something extra, just in case you wanted to do it that way. unless they're for something else. I'll check on them, but that's everything in the 5-inch kit. So we're gonna go ahead and very quickly open up the 6-inch one. Like I said, it's probably gonna be exactly like the 5-inch one, and we'll power through it if it is. So same bag, same upper plate. It should be anyways. So this is the 5 and the 6-inch one, and it's exactly the same one. So everything moves over from the 5-inch and 6-inch in terms of top plate. Here are the 6-inch arms. As you can see, they're a little bit longer than the 5-inch arms, obviously. Over there, here are the spacers again. Let's see if do I have, where did I put it? Yep, spacers between the 5 and the 6-inch are the exact same. Here's the base plate, and again, base plates are the same, and it looks like thickness is the same as well. So again, everything pretty much translates over. Same screws. Open up this really quickly, make sure everything's the same as well. Have your stickers. Here are the neoprene landing legs. Your zip ties. Here's the 4th landing leg. There's the grommet for your XT60 cable. Neoprene for your HD camera. You have your camera strap. We have your XT60 cable. Go ahead and stick that in so don't lose the grommet. Here's the power distribution boards. Here's the screws for the power distribution board and flight controller. And then, there it is. Here are the 4 extra rubber caps for your landing legs, although they didn't provide spacers for those. So essentially, like I said, for the 5 and 6-inch, the only difference is the length of the arms, which makes a lot of sense. So there's a lot of interchangeability, which is what we like to see, you know, especially when it comes to racing frames. So we'll go ahead and start building both of these up. We went ahead and just removed the bottom plate, and we also took out the special, I guess, I don't really know what to call these, but I guess I would call these like specialized locking nuts, in which this is actually for the inside of the frame, and then the arms will be on the bottom. And then we'll be using these aluminum screws, or this one right here, to actually attach them. So the way that it's arranged is that you want this in the middle, and then you want the rise parts to be going on the inside, and that's where your power distribution board is going to go in, right here, like this. So it's actually a pretty neat design in which these don't have to be attached directly to the bottom part of the frame, because this power distribution board should be able to keep these in place, and then the bottom one will be kept in place by all of the arm nuts, because if you were to replace one of them, you would probably only have to remove one, so these should stay together relatively well. So pretty neat design. One thing we did notice is, like on a lot of frames that are coming out, is that once you remove them from the bags, you definitely want to wipe them down first, because you are getting a lot of carbon fiber dust out of these bags. So something that you just don't want on your hands, and you definitely don't want to breathe in. So definitely wipe them off before you start handling them and working with them. So we'll go ahead and we'll actually put on the power distribution board, and then we'll flip it around and we'll show you how the arms go on. So here we are, we just did the first part. So what we did was we took the center locking nut that we have, and we went ahead and put on all 4 of the arms. Obviously this is the 5-inch one, and this is the 6-inch one. So pretty easy. You just want to go ahead and line up all of the landing leg or the arms, and then you just go ahead and put the longest aluminum screw right through the 4 millimeters, this probably 2 millimeters, and then you just use this nut to lock it in, and this is what it looks like. So if you were to have these on top of one another, this is kind of what it looks like in terms of different arm lengths right here. Also, just to let you know again, once again, you know, make sure you wipe off all of the parts, because there is a lot of carbon fiber that's going to be coming off these carbon fiber parts. And just as a point of reference, we do have a 6-inch alien frame right here. So I just want to kind of briefly show you the differences. You'll notice that in order to have compatibility with the QAV-210, this is significantly shorter than the arms. So it'll be something like this, whereas with all of the alien frames, the top plates and the base plates are actually different, so that if you were to actually hold them up like this, this will pretty much have almost all 3 contact points, whereas this will only have 2 contact points. I'll go ahead and flip it over, and I can kind of show you what the overall different size is when it comes to these 2 frames. And it looks something like this. I'm going to go ahead and move these 2 away, and this is the 5-inch one right here, and I can show you what it looks like between a QAV-210. So this is kind of what it looks like between a QAV-210, and size-wise, this is kind of what it looks like to a 210 right here. So pretty close. All right, we'll go ahead and continue on with putting on the rest of these parts to secure down the arm, and then we'll actually look at putting on the top plate. So we went ahead and put in the rest of these screws and locked them in with these specialized parts, and this is how it's supposed to look like. So the risen part goes into the middle, and the reason why it goes into the middle is because that's how you put on your power distribution board. There's threads on the insides of these so that it will go into these nylon spacers. And if you look right here, there's actually quite a bit of clearance down at the bottom of the power distribution board, so there's plenty of space down there. So overall, very interesting design. One thing I will say, I'm just going to go ahead and move this over here, is that if you flip it over to the bottom, the screws go directly onto each arm. If you look over here on an alien frame, what you see when we flip these on the side, so on an alien frame, you have a structural power distribution board on top, and then you have the actual base plate on the bottom. So this creates actually a very rigid structure for the arms, because you have a power distribution board that's actually designed to compress the arms from the top, and then the base plate on the bottom is designed to compress the arms on the bottom. So the arms sandwiched in the middle makes these arms very, very strong, no matter what angle you hit these arms on. So this is a really good design, but it's also, as you can see, it requires much more parts, and it also requires you to have a power distribution board that's also designed to be a important structural part of the frame, which in my opinion is, you know, that can be dangerous, because that means when you take hits, this power distribution board is going to take a lot of force, and it can, you know, flex and fracture and break eventually. With the new race blades, the power distribution board on top doesn't take really any load, especially since it's really locked down with nylon nuts, and they'll strip immediately. So it's really just these specialized aluminum parts on top and these screws on the bottom. This makes for a very lightweight design, but if you hit it in a certain way, it's going to be less durable. For instance, if you were to hit straight on with one of these arms, the pressure will travel through the arm and then distribute it through the frame and the rest of the landing legs. So that's optimal, you know, if you were to hit straight on like this, because it would distribute to the rest of the arms. However, if you were flying this and then you say you hit a tree 40 feet up and then you come down and land and you strike like this, what happens is that there's a upward force over on here, pivot point somewhere in the middle, and then there's going to be a very, very, a very, very powerful downward force directly on these 3 screws. So you hit, the force is going up. On the opposite side, the force is going to try to pull these down. At which point, since there's no base plate on the bottom to help engage all of these screws, it's going to be up to just these 3 screws to take on that force. Because if the force is just straight down, there's no way to really distribute it well to the rest of these screws. So that's kind of, you give that up, so less material, less weight, but also, less durability. So it's what they designed for. It's something that you can correct yourself if you wanted to. You can probably just, 3D print a base plate, add some longer screws if you wanted to have a base plate sandwich on the bottom. If I were flying this frame, I would seriously consider doing that. But this is what it looks like at this point. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put on these aluminum spacers. They're actually textured so that you can actually grip these, and then you can screw on the screws into these spacers, and you can do it with just your hands, which is a very nice feature. The texture itself isn't very aggressive, but there's more than enough texture there to where it becomes significantly more grippy than aluminum spacers that are smooth. So it's a pretty nice touch. One interesting thing that I also want to talk about between this frame and the Alien frame is that on the Alien frame, the black screws signify that they're steel screws, and then the purple ones are the aluminum screws. What's nice about the Alien frame is that you can easily change out the black screws, put them in the middle to add extra strength and reinforcement to the frame, or you can use them for other parts, or just use all aluminum screws. So if you have both, don't get your screws confused, because these are steel over on the Alien side. Whereas on the Alien side, they have just all aluminum screws, except for these right here in this box. And I think these might be for the motors. I don't know. We'll check on that. One other last thing before we continue the build is that when you put on the power distribution board, they also give you 4 nylon screws to be able to put the flight controller on top. So you should have all of the nylon screws you need for a pretty traditional build. So we went ahead and added the spacers, added the top plates, and we also added the side plates for the camera mount. If you've built the QAV-210 before, it's super simple. It's exactly the same. Only difference is that this is a textured black for the spacers, and all of the screws are aluminum. As you can tell, they're going to have a pretty striking resemblance to the QAV-210, because basically the top plate and the side plates are essentially the same thing, which is cool for parts commonality, but at the same time, I don't see any problems with that. Unfortunately, obviously, when you do that, they don't really, the arms and the front of the plate won't match up. Is that a big deal? I leave that up for you to decide. But these are definitely lightweight frames. But just comparing it to, say, the Alien 6-inch over here. So if we take a look at these two, there's obviously going to be a lot of differences in philosophy. This is definitely a lighter weight design. This is built more rigidly. Obviously the camera system up front is completely different philosophies. This one is designed to be very strict, very rigid, to be able to lock it in place in one spot and pretty much at least stayed locked in. But there's also a lot of parts to do that. I've actually built about 5-6 of these, and putting the frame together, I can pretty much do it from memory now, but every single time I put the camera in, I always have to go back and watch the videos, because there's like 5 or 6 different parts to putting in the camera system, and I always forget what goes where. So it's one of those things where, like, even after building 5 of these, I still don't memorize how to put in the camera system. So there is definitely some complexity to this. Does that make this worse or better? It's really up for you to decide. I mean, it's something that you're just going to have to weigh on your own. But you know, anytime that you have more choices in the sport that you want to participate in, that's always better. I do think that if you want simplicity, you'd probably go with the Lumenier version. If you want something that's definitely built more rigidly, and I do believe this is going to be overall a more durable design over here on this side, I think you would want to go with something like the Alien. There is a price difference, but honestly, I don't think there's really that there's a big enough price difference to where I don't think that's going to matter. If you're going to be spending this much money on a frame, price, I don't know if that's really going to come into play. I will say that out of the box, you only get aluminum parts for the center part. They do offer steel parts now. I think you have to email them, and they will actually send over some steel parts. And honestly, if you are racing, I would take on the extra weight to make all these steel parts. I just think that you're going to be better off, especially if you don't have a bottom plate to go with this. But this is just a quick look at the new Lumenier RaceBlades. Pretty interesting design. Oh, one thing before we leave off, I'm going to move these over here. By the time we were done, we had plenty of these smaller aluminum screws. So if you hit something and you stripped any of these screws that line up with the spacers, you'll have plenty of them to use. The screws to lock in the arms, you'll have 2 of those extras. We never used any of these steel screws. These might be for motors. That's the only thing I can think of. And then you'll have 4 nylon screws for the flight controller that's going to go in there. And of course, you also have your nylon landing legs. So these will obviously go in down here. Honestly, what I would do is I would take this, I would cut it in half, I would put one piece right here, and then I would put the other piece as close to the center of the frame as possible. That way on hard landings, you can distribute more of the load across the entire arm, and any force that you have that's closer to the center will be better off for the arm itself. So I would just cut this in half, put one half piece right here, and the other half piece right here. And really, if you're on a budget, you can just cut this in half and use it on 2 frames. I really don't see a need to actually use this whole piece if you really don't want it to. It's stiff enough to where I think, you know, half of this on each arm will be more than enough to support this frame. But that's just my opinions on that. Also, overall for the camera system, I like the camera system design. It's super simple. I've never had problems with it on the 210. But you know, if you want super strict, you want super stringent, then go with the Alien design. But that's all I have. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. Until next time, thank you for watching.